snowflakes swirl around the battered streets of Berlin, 1947, as people huddle in line, waiting for meager rations of bread and coal. The smell of smoke and dampness hangs in the air, a constant reminder of the devastation that surrounds them. The sounds of hammering and sawing echo through the desolate landscape, a testament to the struggle to rebuild. In this frozen, war-torn city, the future hangs precariously in the balance. As we pull back, the scope of the devastation becomes clear. Europe lies in ruins, its cities reduced to rubble, its economies on the brink of collapse. The aftermath of World War II has left deep scars, and the question on everyone's mind is, what's next? It's in this moment of uncertainty that a radical idea emerges, one that will change the course of history. The Marshall Plan, a bold American initiative, aims to pour billions of dollars into the shattered economies of Western Europe, to rebuild, to restore, and to revive. This is the story of how that plan came to be, and how it transformed the continent. It's a story of vision, of politics, and of people, of how a generation of leaders, including Secretary of State George Marshall, worked tirelessly to create a new future for Europe. The Marshall Plan's impact was profound, shaping the course of the Cold War, and laying the foundations for the modern European Union. Today, as the world grapples with new challenges and uncertainties, the legacy of the Marshall Plan remains a powerful reminder of what can be achieved through cooperation, vision, and determination. In the aftermath of World War II, the world was a vastly different place. The old certainties had been shattered, and the global balance of power had been fundamentally altered. The United States and the Soviet Union had emerged as superpowers, their differences in ideology and politics already beginning to drive a wedge between them. Europe, once the epicenter of global power and culture, lay in ruins, its cities bombed out, its industries shattered, and its people struggling to survive. For ordinary people, life was a daily struggle. Food was scarce, and what little there was often rationed. Cities were rubble-strewn, with buildings reduced to bombed-out shells. The sound of hunger and desperation filled the air, as people queued for hours for meager handouts. The winter of 1946-47 was particularly harsh, with temperatures plummeting and fuel in short supply. It was a time of great uncertainty, as the world teetered on the brink of a new and unpredictable era. The political landscape was equally fraught. The Soviet Union, under the iron grip of Joseph Stalin, was tightening its control over Eastern Europe, installing communist governments and suppressing dissent. In Western Europe, the old order was crumbling, and new political forces were emerging. The British Empire, once the dominant world power, was in decline, while the United States was beginning to assert its influence. It was a time of great tension, as the world waited with bated breath to see what the future held. The stage was set for a new era of global politics, one that would be shaped by the competing interests of the superpowers, and the aspirations of ordinary people seeking a better life. In the aftermath of World War II, the world teetered on the brink of chaos. The British Empire, once the dominant world power, was in decline, while the United States was beginning to assert its influence. It was a time of great tension, as the world waited with bated breath to see what the future held. The stage was set for a new era of global politics, one that would be shaped by the competing interests of the superpowers, and the aspirations of ordinary people seeking a better life. As the war drew to a close, the United States and the Soviet Union began to vie for control of the shattered European landscape. The Yalta Conference in February 1945, attended by Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, marked a turning point in the relationship between the two superpowers. The agreement to divide Europe into spheres of influence, with the Soviet Union dominating the East, set the stage for the Cold War. In the months that followed, a series of miscalculations and missteps by the Western powers created an opportunity for the Soviet Union to expand its influence. The failure to provide adequate economic support to war-torn Europe, combined with the delayed implementation of the Morgenthau Plan, allowed the Soviet Union to fill the power vacuum. The Truman administration's decision to halt economic aid to Europe in May 1947, in response to the Soviet Union's refusal to participate in the Paris Conference, further exacerbated the crisis. As the European economy teetered on the brink of collapse, Secretary of State George Marshall began to formulate a new plan to provide economic assistance to Western Europe. The plan, which would eventually bear his name, was born out of a series of meetings and discussions between Marshall and his advisors, including George Kennan and William Clayton. The goal was to create a comprehensive program that would not only provide economic aid but also promote economic integration and stability in Western Europe. The fate of Europe, and the future of the world, hung in the balance, as the United States prepared to launch a bold new initiative to shape the course of history. In the aftermath of World War II, Europe was on the brink of collapse. Cities lay in ruins, industrial facilities were destroyed, and trade flows had come to a grinding halt. The United States, however, saw an opportunity to shape the future of the continent. On June 5, 1947, a meeting of participating European states drafted the Reconstruction Plan, which would later become the Marshall Plan. Secretary of State George Marshall extended an offer of aid to the Soviet Union and its allies, but they refused, under pressure from Stalin. The plan was officially signed into law by President Harry Truman on April 3, 1948, with an initial grant of $5 billion to 16 European nations. Over the next 4 years, the United States would donate a total of $17 billion in economic and technical assistance to help the recovery of European countries. This massive investment had a profound impact, as European economies began to stabilize and grow. Agricultural production, which had been at 83% of 1938 levels, began to rise, and industrial production, which had been at 88%, started to increase. The plan's focus on economic integration and stability began to pay off, as trade barriers were reduced and interstate cooperation increased. The Organization for European Economic Cooperation, established in 1948, played a key role in coordinating the efforts of participating countries. The results were striking, as European exports, which had been at 59% of pre-war levels, began to rise, and economic growth began to accelerate. The Marshall Plan had turned the tide, and Europe was on the path to recovery. By 1952, the plan had achieved its goals, and the Mutual Security Act took its place, marking a new era of cooperation and prosperity in Western Europe. The Marshall Plan had been a bold experiment, but it had succeeded in shaping the course of history, and its legacy would be felt for generations to come. Behind the Marshall Plan were individuals with their own ambitions, fears, and contradictions. Secretary of State George Marshall, the plan's namesake, was a pragmatic leader who had witnessed the devastation of war firsthand. He believed that economic stability was key to preventing the spread of communism, and his plan was a testament to that conviction. Yet, Marshall was also a humble man who disliked the idea of the plan being named after him, preferring instead to focus on the collective effort of the European nations involved. President Harry Truman, who signed the plan into law, was a strong supporter of Marshall's vision. However, he also had to navigate the complexities of American politics, where isolationist sentiments still lingered. Truman's commitment to the plan was tested by the skepticism of some lawmakers, who questioned the wisdom of investing billions of dollars in war-torn Europe. Another key figure was George Kennan, a diplomat and strategist who played a crucial role in shaping the plan's objectives. Kennan was a nuanced thinker who understood the intricacies of European politics and the dangers of Soviet expansion. His writings and advice helped to inform Marshall's approach, emphasizing the need for economic reconstruction as a means of containing communist influence. As the plan took shape, these individuals had to contend with their own private doubts and uncertainties. Marshall worried about the plan's potential to be seen as a form of American imperialism, while Truman faced criticism from those who felt that the plan was too generous, too expensive, or too soft on communism. Despite these challenges, they remained committed to their vision, driven by a shared conviction that the Marshall Plan could be a powerful force for good in a shattered world. It was June 5, 1947, a day that would prove to be a turning point in the history of post-war Europe. Secretary of State George Marshall stood at the podium in Harvard University's commencement ceremony, about to deliver a speech that would change the course of events. The crowd was filled with anticipation, sensing that something significant was about to unfold. As Marshall began to speak, his words were laced with a sense of urgency and conviction. He proposed a plan to provide economic assistance to war-torn Europe, a bold initiative that would require cooperation and commitment from all parties involved. The atmosphere was electric, as the weight of Marshall's words sank in. The crowd was transfixed, hanging on every sentence, as the secretary outlined his vision for a unified and prosperous Europe. It was a moment of clarity, a sense that the trajectory of history was about to shift. The audience was filled with a mix of emotions, hope, skepticism, and curiosity, as they struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what was being proposed. As Marshall finished speaking, the crowd erupted into applause, a spontaneous outpouring of support for the secretary's bold initiative. It was a moment that would be etched in the memories of those present, a moment that would come to define the course of European history. The speech had struck a chord, resonating deeply with the audience, and setting in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the landscape of Europe. As the Marshall Plan took hold, the effects were almost immediate. In West Germany, industrial production skyrocketed, with steel production increasing by 50% in just 2 years. The country's iconic Volkswagen factory, once a producer of military vehicles, was transformed into a hub for civilian car manufacturing, with the now ubiquitous Beetle becoming a symbol of German economic resurgence. In Italy, the plan helped to revitalize the country's agricultural sector, with farmers receiving new equipment and training, leading to a significant increase in crop yields. In France, the plan supported the development of the country's aeronautical industry, with companies like Sud Aviation receiving funding to design and build new aircraft, such as the iconic Caravelle jet. The Netherlands, meanwhile, used Marshall Plan funds to rebuild its devastated port city of Rotterdam, which would go on to become one of the busiest ports in the world. As the years passed, the impact of the Marshall Plan only grew, laying the foundation for the European economic miracle of the 1950s and 60s. The plan's emphasis on economic integration and cooperation also sowed the seeds for the eventual creation of the European Union, with many of the same countries that had participated in the plan going on to form the core of the new union. The ripple effects of the Marshall Plan can still be seen today, in the strong economies and stable democracies of Western Europe. The plan's success also paved the way for future American foreign aid initiatives, such as the Asian Development Bank and the African Development Bank, which have helped to promote economic development and stability in other regions of the world. The legacy of the Marshall Plan serves as a powerful reminder of the impact that visionary leadership and strategic investment can have on the course of global events. Today, the legacy of the Marshall Plan continues to shape the world. The initiative's emphasis on economic integration, trade, and cooperation has inspired countless regional and global development programs. The plan's success in promoting stability and prosperity in Western Europe has served as a model for post-conflict reconstruction efforts in regions such as the Balkans and Afghanistan. Moreover, the plan's focus on institution building and governance has informed the work of international organizations such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The Marshall Plan's impact can also be seen in the rise of the European Union, which was, in part, a response to the plan's call for greater economic integration. The EU's single market, its common currency, and its commitment to free trade and cooperation are all testament to the enduring influence of the Marshall Plan. As the world navigates the challenges of globalization, climate change, and geopolitical instability, the lessons of the Marshall Plan remain as relevant as ever. It teaches us that strategic investment, collective action, and a commitment to shared values can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. As we look to the future, the Marshall Plan's legacy reminds us that economic development, security, and diplomacy are intimately connected. It shows us that visionary leadership, coupled with a willingness to take risks and invest in the well-being of others, can have a profound and lasting impact on the course of human events. The story of the Marshall Plan is a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when nations work together towards a common goal. Follow DayLore for more stories that shaped our world.